The 19 I've published at the end of the morning upgrade with a small revision and enhanced concerning one of criminal facts that prove this is a pre-planning destruction of the commercial and finances and money and banks systems. And this is a Nazi goal of destruction of countries and propitiate emergence to reinforce of dictatorial powers and leads to wars and confusions every time. And people's are, I don't know. How can I know? People do not even, I have stressed this point many times in the past, in the recent past, people do not even realize how they have been tricky in robbery, how they are being tricky in robbery. Why? Because this is the description that I gave of the sub-processes that are cumulative just to these guys, aim always makes a chaos, a confusion on the comprehension of peoples about the running of their own money. They do this precisely in these terms. Aside the component that is real and must be measured in the impact, to understand this well, of the problems of all the data today in these systems of digital. This is a missing term because I stress in this last part again, networks and telecoms, but it's also a problem of technologies. But nevertheless, as I also stressed 2 days ago, if I remember well, this can't only be solved by technology, which means are things that can be solved inside technology to assure better working, but there's a lack of security in all these systems. For instance, Android, that I enjoy as a system, is a light system, have a large number of applications that, for instance, traditional historical OS did not have, like Microsoft, work more quickly and so on, allows things that were before impossible. Apple is in a certain way in the same road for many years or decades, but it's very expensive. This become a democracy of all these possibilities of creation even. But it's impossible to make a fine gestion of files. This is very important because files are information, are memory facts, or accounts, or whatever it is the case. And it's impossible to organize them. As for instance, we were more developed in OS like Microsoft, Apple, I don't know so well, which allows a certain organization of life and activities of peoples or expenses or payments or receivements and so on at all the levels. This is an image of chaos also in this system or this particular aspect of these systems. Sometimes I create folders, I cannot easily put them where I want. They mix again, there are superstructures of all the folders, which is an important concept that Microsoft did not have, for instance, before, but generates a chaos on the comprehensions. These are mechanisms that can be professional in the sense working more properly, but nevertheless, this is a problem of transitional lack of security. These are problems of national security. I just say this to you now, and 1 o'clock, almost 2 in Lisbon, because I realize I have spent last here in analytical terms a lot of time as I have coined all these aspects, publications illustrated with photos and writings, analysis on the dust of 9/11. Because this is New York, this can be interpreted as a mirror of the fall, and I have identified the figures that appears during these works of survival due to high qualified Nazi vandalism that runs free on this country, and to maintain, of course, slavery that maintains robbery, ladies and gents. I say there's a figure there. This is the atomic Panocamis morato and so on, the mushroom and so on. And there's a figure, a bird, kind of bird. It's a very strange bird. I said he seems to live on the branch of a tree or something. And I know just now I realize where this figure came. There's others they are like the one that I have called Caroline type by the reference that we all share, or many will share around the moon concerning this series on Yahoo in televisions, two towers, the fours, the fires, and so on, other figures like these behind. But these I know very well from this camp, but the reference is erased in part also by the high qualified vandalism on my ties. But I have showed these ties and also the reference of each tie by the quite well-known contextual analysis of certain problems. Because I'm not speaking about roses. It's a pity, but nevertheless, it's not roses. I did not see the other ugly lady more. And I suppose this comes from this tie in these last months. One of the questions, the high vandalism damage that they have do is all the ties. They have put this part out of axis to make them torsion, and I don't know, just to recover the few that I still have recover after these months, like qualify vandalism high level. I take these sketches. I do not have a reference or a name that can indicate more, because these are birds. I love very much this tie. It's kind of Art Deco, Art Nouveau style or time of ties. Just now I'm having these on the dust of 9/11, as I've been called to this sequence that I have published at the same time of this main document that I was writing until the end of last December. That was robber and bombing and even the PC's robber and so on as impeachment. And we have two figures of birds, one there, and the other is the one that I have called commotion, because it seems a kind of commotion. This figure there, it's just an head, it's a cutted head also. It's a systematic or transsystemic present symbol, and with a lot of different facts, including here in this one as a counting all the by my son. That's what I will say for the moment, I suppose. Goes on in 30 pages. This is also announced, I suppose it's fair to postulate on the internet, because some days ago in TPS I enjoy very much manual work. It's interesting, because we see many ladies doing very beautiful works on wood, for instance. Some centuries ago we did not find this on this race of Thracians. Ladies has become also with this ability and capacity to do this kind of thing. Ability they have also always by the nature of the woman itself, I suppose. A calm and a precision, and by what is historical acquired on traditional activities of legend. There was a film about repairing cracked base doors. And just they have done this 2 or 3 days ago. Someone is entering here, and they have done this again on this door. Always, every day is this damage step by step of all the objects and reparations. For this reason, I'm speaking about surreal works on Nazi reality. Compilations, as people cannot live in these ways where unknown people enter everyday's house, even the night during the sleep, with closed doors, banks closed, or inside the bed, and they do and steal what they want. This interconnection, this is a movie on woodworks from I don't know where in the world. But this says that this still goes until this point, because at least comprehension, can be an angel saying, we know already that someone will go in your house to do this. But this corresponds to this craziness Nazi reality by the networks and social groups and so on, and the activities of spying and lecture at all the levels in life of kids. This is easy, since societies can survive on these terms. There's a follow-up this morning. Synchronized, I suppose, first of all, is an act of torture and stress, the habitual stress. Why? Because I was like, wake up, I go to the toilet, at that moment the ring, bing, in the door. Where? My door apartment. I look, there was a man with just the light of a phone coming out of the lift, where inside, because the door was still open with a certain line, but in shadow, it's not normal because there is light on the pattern. If someone comes, first connects this light, which means it's a shadow play. And he says in Brazilian that he's from Epal and he was coming to read the water. I say to him, it's impossible because there's a colleague of you that has been here 2 or 3 days ago. The problem is still the same, opening the water. And he goes away without opening the water. This is the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'm 50 days, 55 dias sem água, in this infamy and Nazi front, outlaw country against all my constitutional rights and women rights before all, and many other laws of property. These are torture Nazi acts that are squared on this exterminium that starts going on from the last year in another level. And the robber of all my life and patrimony and the destruction of my family and all my history on the presence of this hurt. And what justice that I'll do to me and to my son according to law. As the news today of Branquinho on the parliament, not about the last recent episode 2 days ago was this shadow around questions not answered properly according to interests perhaps behind the table. It's never even clarify and saying that he was percolating the delivery of the names to the Supreme Court, to TC. I click the link and say, why, they are going to propose new judge to TC. No, there's not reference to this. I suppose they are speaking about giving or not giving a list of names without even specifying what. It appears Cavaco Silva on the link, an image full of golden light all around, and the news says that Europeans gave him a medal for good political behavior, as we see as victim every day. Your Nazi hypocrisy still goes on these terms. I demand the intervention of the courts that have jurisdiction on these matters. There was also a news concerning a political statement analysis certain deeply concerning apparently the statement from states from China and even from Russia that TPE also seems not working in their point of view to solve this question, and the need, of course, to maintain the diplomatic doors open to solve these questions is squared also in the question of the war, or the fantasy of the war between Russia and Ukraine. Nevertheless, ladies and gentlemen, this is all no question. What is important is a statement of ONU. And this General Assembly of ONU, because this is one of also the major questions, the gestion of the Council of Security, as I have spent my free time of slavery in the beginning of this crime of robber of my son. Present what I think about the Constitution, the functions, and what can be a different model concerning the Security Council. Because this is a global parliament, or was in theoretical terms a global parliament. This question that apparently some countries agree concerning the inoperability of TPE It's the same question that we can all put concerning ONU itself, as I've put many times. I don't know precisely the terms and the reality, for instance, of work of UNICEF, that is an institution of ONU that I have always supported. And I hope that they work and have conditions to work and do a proper work, because child in all four corners of the world need to be cared always. But nevertheless, I say this first, ONU, Organização Mundial de Saúde, OMS, where we have problems unfold. There's apparently a sub-variation of another stirp or sub-extirp of Ebola virus some days ago already on these circles of 10. I have to just again return to these questions of OMS, followed by the fact that I'm again writing because they touch by themselves these questions. And after next day I open the browser and I see the interstitial Nazi sugar plague global, some news about some countries in Africa with these. I don't know if it's even true or not. This was a question that was square on just after the fall of the plane. As I, again, recently, not far away, remember in a certain detail. This is always like these things, goes in nebulosas and return and goes and return with variants. I'm not speaking about virus strictly. And we still entangle on these every day during decades until coffin. Bottom line are ways to maintain slavery, and slavery maintains robbery and expoliation. As I said, I'm each day more and more convinced that most part of the blood resultants of all these cows and interconnection and global Vietnam is derived for robbers, pure the robbers. As an high percentage of what before we think and define as terrorism acts and so on. And they are in the nature of expression, or can be understood and square in these real terms. But nevertheless, many of these turmoils and blood that is going all around is generated by people who are robbing. And sometimes these guys, the robbers with blood on these fields or square or umbrella and comprehension of terrorism. This is pure robbery and destruction of all. Apparently of the Minister of Welfare, or at least with this suitcase on their hand, political suitcases, I don't know terms, about ESS or welfare in more general, and the new reform or whatever law, whatever. I'm speaking about the limit of contribution of work can't be downsized. This is already, I suppose, statistical defined axiom for decades already, why I'm speaking about this, and speaks about new values, promise of values concerning 2029 on the minimum salary of 1,100, which means saying, which is the cylinder of Cinquas cars. My father had one, and I read on there's also lawyers, family lawyers. There's a family lawyers on this crime of robbery, or if not, first of my son is Vera Dão Silva. And I suppose this is someone's perhaps saying that this is a question that comes from this time where my father had this car, when I was a young 30 or around years or something in the kind. I don't know. And a certain responsibility, perhaps a conflict for this time, perhaps even before the revolution, the so-called revolution here. I don't know. Can be, because these people are twisted enough to steal a child, some decades after by some question of this nature at these ages. I don't know, but I suppose this can be a certain logical. Nevertheless, these are shadow statements that can be read on these ways or can be read in this way, but nevertheless, there's no validity of comprehension and even responsibility. And the major question is the outlaw terms still go on this republic because there's no answer by law. I want to know about my son that I don't know nothing from 2007. I want to know about the situation of my family that I do not know. My parents from last September. And other elements, as I also gave Richard not far away the account. Once again, Flamingo or Sconia, whatever. There are some reference French, I suppose, in photos, magazines concerning America. This figure also, if I remember well, that perhaps I have touched and shown some large already decades ago on and within the 9/11 crime. What I can say. But it's strange because this figure in this particular ground there, because it lives on the branch, something where it can be an image of someone that lives on a knife, square wrapper or something like that. About this shadow today, interstitial Nazi play that's going on this Nazi outlaw country of Blanquin, if he's delaying the deliverance of certain names with this tricky on the contents of this news on SAP, which is a crime by itself. This is not public communication, can't be acted by public figures with state responsibility in this term and is still running free, as I have the care to spend my time again to explain one more crime as all the days, as all the hours and all the seconds in all what you call medias. These are terrorism. These are real terrorism. These are not public communication. The logical conclusion will be if he is delaying the deliverance of names that have nothing to do with the apparently contents of the medal give to the Nazi more Cavaco Silva. And perhaps they have interests to protect, criminal interests to protect. Deliver names to a court seems deliver people that they know the parliament or the presidents of the parliament that they have responsibilities, whatever they are, because are undefined, are trickery and shadow on this communication public, which is a crime. Again, they know something connected with some crimes. Everything and nothing can fit. As always like this, shadows nourish in this way. This will nourish a shadow seed for perhaps 1 year. To understand and entangle all and to allow for some to be target of robbers of all kinds and all in general speaking ways at different levels. And inoperability of life and life in normal, expectable way where people have families at home, work and can produce incomes and so on, and contributing for the community or for the state or for the country, whatever is the definition or the understanding. We are all in limbo on the hand of these criminal terrorists methods and models of communication that shows until this in the other side how many are so entangled on these channels with even criminal squares and consequences of penalties in these methods of law. Let's recall these, because this figure, as Art Deco, Art Novel, is present on Saldanha, which is the extreme of Barshov Blind, which is the cell of also the quarter of the cell of this bank, that quarters, and ESS, or Pensions and Social Affairs. And in the first beginning of the Sigma exercises on this quarter, after the tsunami 2005, they put on scene even returning to the assassination of JF Kennedy. And it appears on the revelation of an old building there in Saldanha, descending to the Neptune status, where the interior, after the revelation, by my surprise when I passed on the street, was an article, furniture, what not furniture. It's very unique, I suppose, in this. I'm not walking freely in this city to the grilletas, the hate that I'm obliged by this Nazi regime to carry, but nevertheless I never saw this. There's a reference concerning Art Deco again, or Art Nova, on this quarter with these two main institutions, bank, Caixa de Depósitos, and IFS pension. Perhaps the lady was saying to me that they know that this Adão Silva is responsible for these crimes on IFS of prescriptory inside the maintenance of my slavery and first of all the role of my son. And what is the validity to ask these in these terms? And what answer I will have clear as the more pure, clear water concerning a son that I do not know nothing from the Father's heaven. This is our ways to perpetuate labyrinth, slavery, and expoliation for life and patrimony. I believe there because this is an old this quarter in the hand is constructions from the 40s around, but they were high for the time. They have 7, 8 floors. And this is a kind of tower in our proportion of construction here on buildings in Lisbon and in Portugal, generally speaking. And these can point, perhaps someone that lives on this, I'm speaking about the figure that can live on this particular rebuilt building not far away some years ago, not far. As I gave the account when I discovered, because also they display a lot of shadows, of course, on this atrium. After I've noticed, this is the way that they build shadows. And there's no tension to understand people who are living in a certain building, if it's the case, because there is a suspicion or whatever of a crime. This is not take 3 years to solve. Normally, it's a pragmatic research methods. If was the case, I cannot even determine this. I'm losing my time with the shadow interstitial of these Nazi criminal plays that you call medias and communication.